One of the best-known archetypes of African-American women in film is the mammy. According to the documentary Ethnic Notions, the image of the mammy was the creation of the white Southerners in response to the abolitionist movement to end slavery. The mammy was used to defend slavery by having her possess all the qualities that made her ideal for serving and at the same time made her invaluable to society. Through her physical appearance and temperament, the mammy became the antithesis of the white mistress. By contrast in her behavior and appearance, the mammy illuminated the virtue, morality, beauty, and other positive qualities that were embedded into the white female character. While subservient to whites, the mammy is presented as a matriarchal figure in her own family. According to societal norms, women are supposed to be weak while men are strong. This confliction was used to demonstrate the inferiority of the black race. The mammy character served to reinforce the social and economic positions of African Americans. It inferred that African American women were only fit to be domestic servants. The character played by Ethel Waters in the 1949 film Pinky exhibits a 19th century racial stereotype of the mammy. Pinky features Ethel Waters as both the loyal black servant and grandmammy to Pinky, a mulatto played by Jeanne Crain. Ethel Waters embodies many of the typical characteristics of a mammy, particularly in her appearance. Waters' big built and dark skin is used as a contrast to enhance the beauty and sexuality of her white co-star. The mammy archetype is also evident in Waters' matriarchal behavior. When she learns her mulatto granddaughter has been passing as white, she commands her to fall to her knees and repent. Her voice becomes large and her strength is apparent as she threatens to whip the living daylights out of her. Her role of a matriarch figure in her family is well defined at this moment. Waters' character displays impeccable dedication and loyalty to her white employer, Miss M. Waters' character convinces her granddaughter Pinky, who is a nurse living in the North, to return to the South and care for her elderly white employer. This illustrates just how devoted she is to her employer, that she would ask her own granddaughter to sacrifice her own wants to meet the needs of her employer. Her obedience and allegiance to her white employer parallels the stereotypical mammy who lives to serve the white household. The New Republic even characterizes her role as exhibiting dog-like devotion. In stark contrast to the mammy archetype is the tragic mulatto. According to Donald Bogle, the author of Tom Kuhn's Mulattoes, Mammies, and Bucks, the tragic mulatto in cinematic Hollywood is the portrayal of a person of mixed races who fails to completely fit into the black world or the white world. Audiences are usually sympathetic towards the mulatto because of her white blood and believe the girl's life could have been happy if she was not a victim of a divided race. Often, if she was light enough, she would even try to pass as white. However, denying her own racial identity usually led to further self-loathing. It is only until the mulatto returns to her black roots will she be able to reach redemption, and even then she is not totally complete. The tragic mulatto character was used by Hollywood to perpetuate the idea that the mixing of races is dangerous for offspring. The tragic mulatto served to discourage interracial relationships and to reinforce the separation of races. A classic depiction of the tragic mulatto stereotype can clearly be seen in the film Pinky. A white actress named Jeanne Crain was cast as the role of Pinky because of the interracial relationships between Pinky and her love interest, the white doctor. This demonstrates just how strongly American society feared miscegenation that is not only unacceptable in the real world, but in film too. The film focuses on a light-skinned black woman named Pinky who has been passing as white while studying for nursing in the North. When she returns home to visit her grandmother, she is faced with the harsh reality of being a colored person in the racist South. At her grandmother's request, Pinky cares for an old aristocratic white woman who ironically solves Pinky's internal conflict on whether or not to embrace her black identity. Upon her death, she leaves Pinky her mansion, which Pinky has to fight in court to keep. Once Pinky comes to terms with who she is, she decides to stay with her people and end her romance with the white doctor. Thus, she becomes a tragic mulatto as she has to sacrifice her personal happiness for self-acceptance. African American actresses' on-screen roles were not only marginalized by their race, but also by their gender. In the 1950s, African American actresses who were cast in leading roles with male co-stars were constructed as objects of desire. Although both white and black actresses' sexualities were exploited by Hollywood, according to the book African American Actresses, The Struggle for Visibility by Charlene Register, African American actresses are further objectified and devalued because of their race. Dorothy Dandridge, a sex symbol of the 1950s, once stated, "America was not geared to make a black woman into a Liz Taylor, a Monroe, a Garner. My sex symbolism was a wanton, a prostitute, not as a woman seeking love and a husband, the same as other women." Dandridge's statement expressed the racial hierarchies of that time. White women were portrayed as models of self-respect and modesty, whereas black women were depicted as sexually lewd and even animalistic. On-screen, black actresses were overtly endowed with sexuality. Male-dominated Hollywood portrayed a black actress as sexually promiscuous. The leading man was often presented as dominant and powerful, while the black actress was just an object of his gaze. However, the industry always made it blatantly clear that it was the lust and not love that he was after. The hypersexualized beauty archetype was used to put African American women on the margins of society. Their depiction of a heightened sexuality clashed with the cultural norm, and as a result, isolated from the rest of society. The 1954 film Carmen Jones, starring Dorothy Dandridge, demonstrates how the cinema industry exploited the sexuality of black actresses. Dandridge's objectification is apparent even in the promotional ads for the film, which are oozing of sexuality. Dandridge plays the part of Carmen, a sexy black factory worker. In the film, Carmen lures Good Boy Joe to deserting the army only to abandon him later for a prize fighter, and finally she reaches a tragic end when she is strangled by him for her promiscuous ways. Dandridge's character is a confident woman who uses her sexuality to control the men around her. In the opening scene, Dandridge flirts and signs with Joe right in front of his girlfriend as she playfully sings, "If you're hard to get, I go for you. If I love you, that's the end of you." The character Carmen is overly sexualized and objectified all throughout the film. This is most evident in the scene when Joe throws Carmen to the ground, ties her hands and feet to prevent her from escaping. Carmen fights back by clawing and biting, which represents her as being very animalistic and untamed. These are the images America has embraced as reality. They have bred hatred and discrimination against black women. And it is not until society can educate and liberate itself from these illusions will we be able to break the patterns of our past and gain vision and truth for our future.